Welcome back to the Papa Meat channel. How you doing? How you doing? Come on and sit on down because today we're talking about disgusting people doing disgusting things.
You just don't have to worry about it.
It's not safe. Kevin is living on top of a bomb. I mean, he doesn't even understand. That is very dangerous, my friend.
Ah! The spring is right around the corner. You know, getting things nice and organized, throwing out some of the unused junk, which I'm a hoarder. I mean, if you look at the back of my room here, I have a dog. My dogs haven't been up here in how long, and I have a dog bed.
Just in case.
Just in case, you never know. But today I wanted to take time to talk about one of my favorite things, people collecting trash and being unable to throw things away because emotionally they are connected to them somehow. I love the idea. I'm unable to throw away a bucket. Your mind gets attached to a bucket full of like dead rats or something like that, and you're like, I need it. I can't live without this bucket. What is a hoarding disorder? If you've never heard of hoarding, this is what it is. There is a misconception that hoarders are simply lazy people who don't want to clean or organize their living space. In reality, it's much more complex. It actually became recognized as a mental illness, one that leads to people struggling to part ways with their possessions. It becomes a necessary comfort to keep these items, and discarding them can lead to intense emotional distress. That's what you're talking about. The first catalyst to a hoarder is whenever the kids have those fucking, on the back of your door, the Hot Wheel collector thing. It's weird. It's like, look at my Hot Wheel collection. You shut your door, that thing would do. I swear to God, that is the starting point to emotional stress collecting. I gotta fill them up. Because then, if anything, I remember I was like talking with this friend of mine, and I was like, you have 3 of these. There's like 200 slots on the back of them. He's like, I don't. So he just started putting all kinds of shit. He'd find like twigs and rocks from outside, break them, and like put them in the thing. It felt like a I was like, all right, man, cool. Mom, come pick me up. Many feel the need to hold on to their things as a way to feel like they have a sense of control over their lives. People experiencing dementia, OCD, or depression can sometimes find themselves experiencing these same tendencies. Maybe you're depressed. Better hold on to some of this stuff. Over time, however, this comes at a cost of their own personal health. Their living space can become cramped, dangerous, and covered in health violations. It often leads to isolation, which erodes relationships with friends and family. Which the first case I think of is that one that was people were talking about a lot, was the girl who like hoards her poop.
This house has a septic issue.
Oh yeah, we got that in there.
Okay, good. We're talking about the poop hoarder.
There's still some space in the toilet, but I don't want it to overflow.
My grandma's kind of a hoarder. I had to clean her house.
Your grandma was a hoarder? Like, really? Or were you just like, what are these dolls? I can see you bullying your grandma, dude.
Nick, leave me alone.
Stop it, Nick.
I cleaned her house for free. I spent 2 days.
Touch me there.
Just take your medicine and go to sleep, grandma.
She had dog shit, like, stamped in the carpet.
Oh, dude. See, that was one of the reasons why I hated going to my grandma's retirement home. Old dementia kooks walking around and stuff. One of them had a cat that was dead, that like was under the bed, and like nurses would try to come in and clean up, and she's like, get out of here. And she like freak out. It was horrifying. To be an owner of a retirement home like 30 years ago or whatever, gold mine. Oh my God, just put them in a closet. Come see them at Christmas. There's 5 stages of hoarding. Level 1, one who feels the compulsion to collect things but has kept it to a minimum. Their home is still easy accessible. I think that I'm at a level 1 or maybe a level 2, which is how, I mean, if you look around just the things that I collect, I think anybody who's like collects a little something, everyone has a moment in time where they're like, what is this? Like, oh, I just keep it. Well, see, for me, it's like I'm just so fat, all my clothes doesn't fit anymore. And my wife's like, you should just get rid of these. And I'm like, oh, I'll slim down. I wonder what it is if it's anti-hoarding.
I had that. I used to just throw away shit.
What is? I wonder what that is for.
Well, just more like, I have no use for this. And then you throw away family memorabilia, and then they cry.
I think my sister has that. My mom will buy her like a new couch or whatever. And she's like, it just took up too much space. You just like throw it, you're like, so you don't have a couch in your house? It's just like a folding chair and a TV, Bob's Burgers playing on the TV. You're like, all right, dude. Or we could talk about level 2. While not too extreme, there's noticeably more garbage and old food laying around. Perhaps animal waste as well. I've even had some buddies like that, left out food and shit. But it's not even like lazy to throw away. They're like, well, I might eat it. Like pizza crust that's like just like as hard as a rock. It's good stuff, man. Pizza shop cracker crust. Oh, good stuff. Level 3. A nasty odor begins to ruminate. And bedrooms and bathrooms become unsanitary and unusable. Items begin to collect and stack, taking up a more noticeable amount of space. And then you move into level 4. The odor becomes unbearable, and an abundance of animal feces, bugs, and rodents infest the house. At this point, the junk makes it hard to navigate the property. I like how you actually become like a Greek myth after a while. You literally just have like a labyrinth forming. That's when the Minotaur moves moves in. And of course, lastly, level 5, the end of the road, the worst stage, where everything is elevated. This can pose great risk to health, as sections of the house will be permanently damaged from the horrible conditions. In extreme cases, bottles of human waste can be found as well. Well, yeah, dude, and at this point, you're like, I don't know how to get the fuck out of here. How do you keep bringing stuff in, though, is what I want to know. You know what I've seen a lot with hoarders is like newspapers and mailers and shit. Can you imagine not being able to throw away junk mailers? Holy credit card offers and stuff like that. I gotta know. You never know. Well, I remember I saw one where a guy was like, see, I'm eligible for $500. I'm eligible for $1,400 credit. Many people find themselves drawn to the extreme levels of hoarding. Let's talk about some of the weirdest and most real examples that are happening in the world. Starting off with the Japanese hoarder. A Japanese woman online known as, okay, dude.
Shirokuma
Tiandedesku Uzuki. What the fuck is this? What, we play Mad Libs here with the deal? Oh, come on, like, this is her name.
Sharo Kumadendasuki 4444.
Whatever, that's her. I don't know what I can tell you. It could just never be like Sarah, like Jean. Fucking racist for me to say. Why can't her name just be Sarah? A Japanese woman online who gives people a strange deep dive into a young hoarder trying to live her life in alarmingly bleak housing conditions. The photos here, my God.
I thought this was fake. She was showing how she made like stew. She was like putting carrots in, like, and then there's like cockroaches and stuff. But
I could see it maybe being a bit of a troll.
No, but it's real. Unless she just owns a house, she throws garbage in.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It might be that, or even just committing to the bit. Like, I'm not really a hoarder, but like this gets clicks, so fuck it, I don't give a shit. That's like a grub human thing, right? Little goblin mode type shit. Her content mainly revolves around her cooking meals, but people became alarmed at the incredibly cluttered rooms. In many videos, it is clear that her apartment has been grossly infected by hordes of insects, and supposedly she has not paid rent in over a year. That's awesome. I'm just not gonna pay it. And began wearing an outfit consisting of overdue payment and eviction forms. You can see these forms decorated all over her room, making a outfit out of people being like, we're gonna kick you out, and she's just like. But over time, her trash began spreading to neighboring apartments and businesses. Her apartment became so much of a fire hazard that firefighters had to break inside the building to forcefully remove the clutter. She's open about her battle with mental health, but has not made much progress throughout her time online. I feel like the worst thing you can do is take your hoarding obsession and make it into a content generator. You're just totally enabling the person to be like, this is awesome. You're a freak. And she's like, awesome. That's engagement. If you were a firefighter and you broke into just like a person's house and they were a hoarder, do you have to keep a professional face? Because the person's got to be right there, right? You break in and they're like you see like the top of their head and their eyes from a stack. Do you think people are like, oh my God? Or is it more just like stoic and calm?
They probably say, this is a fire hazard, lady.
It's the first thing to say. They break down the hinges of the door. This is a fire hazard, lady. Drag her out by her ankle.
My brother worked at God Junk and he used to go de-junkify hoarders' houses every once in a while. They would have to remove the hoarder from the house.
They stopped them from collecting the shit. They'll be like, no, not that thing.
This is all contaminated.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. This is unhealthy. It has to be burned. I can't even throw this. I'm not allowed to throw this at the dump. This has to go be fired up and burned.
I mean, they don't forcibly put them out, but I think they're just like, are you ready? And I think that they're like, yeah. But I think they're outside like throwing up and like shitting themselves and stuff. They're like, no, you know, that kind of thing.
Wait, we want to thank today's sponsor, Bad Dragon. We here at Papa Meat are very, very good friends with Bad Dragon, and we want to take time to thank them for being an amazing sponsor. If you're looking to spice up things in the bedroom or even for yourself, consider going to Bad Dragon and getting a little something on the sexier side. We've been to the factory, we've seen how the cookies are made, and let me tell you, the cookies are sweet and the quality's amazing. So if you're looking to spice things up, please consider going to our dear friends Bad Dragon and just check it out and see if there's anything for you or a loved one that may be amazing. Something for grandma. Thank you, Bad Dragon, for sponsoring this video, and back to the video.
But let's go back in time a little bit, right? We need to go back in time to appreciate what some called the first hoarder house, the first recorded hoarder house. That's what they say, which is called the Collyer Mansion. Hoarding is not a new thing. In fact, one of the first and most famously known cases of hoarding took place inside a mansion in 1947. That's how you know, too. It was definitely a hoarding house. They're just like, just won the war. And he's just like, I'm not throwing out a thing. Everything's a trophy now. Off Germany! The Collyer brothers, Homer Collyer and Langley Collyer, were born to an unfathomably wealthy American family. Upon their death, they left their luxurious estate to the two of them to live together in. I don't know, like that. If you were super wealthy, would you be like, we're gonna live together forever, bro?
If I was tight with my bro.
You would live with your, even because you were tight with your brother, you would live with him forever.
Yeah.
You would never establish a sense of independence for yourself.
Well, it's like him and Harry, dude. You know, they're already doing it.
I guess that's true. You're already doing it with Harry, I guess. The death of their family had a massive impact on them, causing the brothers to isolate themselves in their new home. This was exacerbated when Langley began to go blind in 1932. What started as Langley collecting things he enjoyed, like toys and books, slowly turned into filling the place with an assortment of junk. Not only did this include things like camera equipment or random furniture, but even jarred organs that belonged to his father when he worked as a doctor. God, dude, those old medical, like this is Dad's spleen. He's like, it's not mine, I just have it in a jar. Langley, who was unable to work or tend to himself because of his worsening blindness, was cared for by Homer. Their home was broken into multiple occasions, and in response, Langley used his obscenely large collection of stuff to create a maze that would stop intruders from finding their way in. That is, this is the premise to a horror film. Well, it's like, what the fuck was that movie? Don't Breathe? Is that what it was called? Whatever the dudes break into the blind dude's house. Whatever, which to be fair, he's doing like a Home Alone, like Macaulay Culkin thing in that movie. But can you imagine you go in and it's a maze and it's just like, welcome. You've made your choice. The smell was becoming unbearable, reaching far beyond their property and towards their neighbors' homes. In response, the city council offered to clean the house, but the brothers refused. One night in 1947, a nasty, rotting smell led to a neighbor calling the police. Officers were sent to inspect the place, but physically could not, as the windows were reinforced with iron bars. There were so many piles of junk at the entrance that an officer had to break in on the second floor just to avoid the impenetrable wall of filth, which I love this picture here. It looks like a Buster Keaton movie. The guy's just like, don't worry, I'll get up there and see if I can fish him out myself, boys. After 5 hours of digging, they found Homer's body. It was perceived he had died from starvation as well as heart disease. Langley was nowhere to be found. People were confused, and the narrative became a story in which Langley killed his own brother and called in the tip himself before fleeing the country. However, after 3 weeks of deep cleaning the Collyer mansion, it was discovered that Langley was home the entire time, buried 10 feet away from where Homer's remains after being crushed by his many possessions. This is a Greek tragedy right here. Their story was one bred from severe untreated trauma and mental health struggles, leading to the debilitating need to hoard their belongings. This event led to the phrase Collier's Mansion, to be used by firefighters to refer to a home belonging to a hoarder. How is this not a movie yet? This feels prime for a movie.
Yeah, make it a horror movie too.
You can make it a horror movie, but it could also be something where you could just, especially Hollywood, whatever, you know what they do? They throw like a ghost in there. I have to collect. What's wrong, brother? One guy gets trapped and he's haunting the place or whatever. I can't leave.
Maybe that's how they stop the ghost.
We can't let this evil out in the world. Stack up Dad's jar of organs. This is like, it could be, you could probably do like a movie like 1408. 1408 is like John Cusack goes to a hotel and like this room is supposed to be haunted. It's like a really surrealist shit where he like tries to leave but like won't let him leave. All that kind of stuff. Whatever. It's actually not a bad movie. Or we could talk about a hoarder who owns 300 to 500 animals. Bit of a weird scale there. It's in that range somewhere. This year, Warren County humane officers were randomly called by a woman from the hospital. She admitted that she had a serious hoarding problem and that her 200 animals were home alone and in need of care. Like now it's 200. All right, easy. Well, let's see what happens here. When they arrived at the location, they were shocked to find that she greatly downplayed the situation. Not only was the home already covered in dead animals, but they found between 300 to 500 in total. I want to know the day she faced that demon though, where she was like, yeah, I might have a bit of a problem. I think I might be a hoarder. They found stacks of rodent cages containing hamsters, gerbils, and rats. That would freak me out. That would freak me out. In a horrific scene, several huskies were found dead in the backyard. Only one was still alive when the humane officers arrived, and the animals were transferred to a shelter as it was more than obvious that the woman was not equipped to care for any of them properly. What a fun little story. Wasn't that nice? I'm wondering how much of it is like, does she steal other people's animals and bring them in?
It's a breeding problem. My aunt had that. She let in like...
How many members of your family are you talking about in this one too? Good Lord.
My aunt, she would like feed stray cats and they started breeding, and then she had like 30 in her house.
Oh, they were breeding inside of her house?
Yeah, because she's like, well, I feel bad for them. When my aunt went out of town, my mom was watching her house, and the first day she found a dead cat on the floor. Granted, they knew it was going to die.
You're like, but don't even get me started on my cousin. Or we can talk about the hoarder junkyard, which created a fire hazard, which I feel like, are these all not fire hazards? Let's see. In 2024, an LA, okay, so it's in LA. An LA family became fed up with their neighbor's hoarding habits. Alina Malone and her husband Josh purchased their dream home in 2021. They spent $1.2 million on it, convinced that this would be their home for the rest of their lives. Out in LA. Their neighbor, however, would collect an insane number of items that would eventually spread to his backyard. Over time, his 5-acre property became a dangerous junkyard filled with absurd objects, refrigerators, refrigerators, shipping containers, burnt car batteries, and piles of moldy clothes. There are 114 vehicles total, some of which are believed by Highway Patrol to be stolen or previously used to enact crimes. Alina knew things had gone too far when she was unable to visit her husband, who was in the middle of chemotherapy. He was vomiting uncontrollably, and Alina physically couldn't leave the house to pick him up because a car was blocking the front gate. What do you do when you're just like, hey, move your shit? Do you think is the guy just like, no, or do you even see him? Is he like a mystery figure? Not only was this a fire hazard, but the area they lived in specifically was no stranger to harsh weather conditions, because if a rock falls on the ground in LA, it goes up in flames. The owner of the property believes that her son's hoarding started after their house was destroyed by fire in 2017, which led him to feeling the need to constantly scavenge for materials. What? District 9? Like, what are you talking about, dude? The house is down. We need wood. We need firewood. This kicked off the bad habit. I had only worsened over time due to other possible trauma. The Malones are forced to wait until the city clears out all the numerous cars in the neighborhood yards. Only then can the LAPD enter the property, according to Alina. It seems that nobody will really be pushed to fix the issue until another serious disaster strikes. I love how that one ends of just like, that's just her life now. Forever stuck in her house. Her husband on chemotherapy is still there. You know, he's fully recovered now with a new family. He has a full head of hair and couldn't be happier right now. She's just in the gate though. She just orders DoorDash and she has to like reach to the gate. Can we just throw it? Just throw it. Or in 2022, Robert Elsie was found dead, buried underneath a pile of garbage. It's always just great when the sentences start off like that. You're like, you know, there it is. Police were called in after his neighbors noticed his mail began to stack up on his front porch. Like, what do you mean stacked up? The guy's just like, Police were called in after his neighbors noticed his mail began to stack up on his front porch. It seemed that he had trapped himself inside his own hoarded possessions, possibly dying from asphyxia. He suffocated amongst his own trash, which I guess, like, looking at the pictures here, that is insane. No! Investigators were told by his neighbors that Robert's mother passed away 10 years ago, but there was no record of this available. When one of Robert's storage units was put up for auction, the new owner was shocked to find that amongst more piles of garbage, there was a box that contained the skeleton of his dead mother. Robert decided to hide her death to keep it off record and continue collecting her Social Security and retirement payments. That's the thing too, is he was trying to swim through the trash in his house to, like, the mailman was just like throwing the checks at the door and he's like, let me just throw it? Man, imagine finding you like in Storage Wars. That's how you know this show sucks dick. You didn't find one skeleton once. There's not one dead woman. And yeah, this is a crazy buy. Or in 2016, a senile Brooklyn woman named Rita Wolfenson. A senile Brooklyn woman.
Take her pick.
Yeah, honestly, buddy. That's all of them. In 2016, a senile Brooklyn woman named Rita Wolfenson had been inadvertently living with the skeletal remains of her son for up to 20 years. What do you mean inadvertently? He left one day. His like full corpse is just like there on the floor. Rita was not only a hoarder, but she was completely blind. Okay. Don't start me off with like she's senile. Nothing else. Just because she's blind. One day, she was in the hospital and needed a relative to go to her house to pick up a few things. When her sister-in-law arrived, the house had a pungent, rotting smell. She soon discovered a skeleton laying on his back on the floor. It was still fully dressed and seemingly untouched.
20 years?
20 years in the same outfit, dude. Law enforcement described the scene as being straight out of a horror movie. Rita was totally convinced that her son simply moved out and wasn't reaching out to her. A funeral was prepared over a decade after his death. So I like how she's just like, one day she's just like, I guess he's never talking to me again. Like, just totally, didn't even want to say goodbye. I think he's just gone. There's no way she didn't trip over them like once or twice. I don't think she just knew and she accepted it. I think that she just didn't care. I've been in a room where my dog has taken a shit and like it's just immediately noticeable. If you're blind, your sense of smell is going to be way off the charts with that. You can probably hear him like wheezing and shit. We could talk about a hoarder's house that was engulfed in flames. Jesus Christ. That's got to be like a superconductor, doesn't it? You light one match in a hoarder's house, it's gone. Barbara Verboven, these are great names, by the way. Barbara Verboven was a former member of the Greenwich Board Education before becoming greatly ill, which led to her being cared for by her 42-year-old son, Dean. My name is Dean Verboven. Why do you look so, like, suspicious? I'm Dean Verboven. The state of the home began a slow decline as Barbara spent her days glued to her bed, unable to do anything but eat, sleep, and watch TV. Preach. Fast forward to 2016. The home was in an unbearably bad state, which infuriated her neighbors. They believed it made the entire neighborhood look hideous, on top of it being a safety hazard. No one gives a fuck about it being a safety hazard. There's like some war vet. He's like sitting there like mowing his yard and he's like making us all look bad. Eventually, state social workers were directed to enter the home and clear out the mess. This infuriated Dean. And to get revenge on those responsible, he decided to burn down his own home before they could arrive. All right, Dean. Okay, Dean. I'm Dean Verboven. Dean was killed in the process, either from his self-inflicted wound or being trapped in his hoarder den and unable to escape in time. Barbara, however, made it out with only a few injuries. How the f did Barbara make it out, dude? What was Dean hiding in there? His birth certificate, that's it. I'm Dean Verboven. You go in that house, I'll kill myself. We get into a nice little true crime thing here, which is the duck sauce killer saga. What's duck sauce?
Duck sauce is a sauce.
Is that just a normal thing? Duck sauce? In a strange story from 2022, a hoarder murdered an innocent delivery driver over his strange desire to collect duck sauce. I really feel we are in the end times somehow. One night, a Chinese food delivery man named Z110 was shot to death in Queens. New York again, buddy. Police began to investigate the murder. After talking to the staff of Great Wall, the Chinese restaurant, they discovered the existence of a suspicious customer named Glenn Hirsch. One day, a man named Glenn Hirsch ordered takeout from Great Wall and became infuriated at the lack of duck sauce given to him in his order. He was denied a refund, which sparked several months of intense harassment towards the staff. The 50-year-old disgruntled customer was known to destroy employee vehicles and slash their tires. And in one instance, he confronted the owner and pulled a gun on him over duck sauce, dude. God! Glenn asked the owner how his car is doing before saying, "Remember me? I will kill your entire family." That's a direct quote. Remember me? Quack, quack. Fucker. Quack, quack. Z-Win helped wrestle the gun away from him, and Glenn vowed to get his revenge. I like how Z-Win was just like, give me that gun, idiot. Weeks later, Glenn Hirsch was arrested after surveillance video revealed him circling the restaurant for hours as he waited for Z-Win to come out. The video shows the entire encounter, including the shooting. He was charged with second-degree murder as well as criminal possession of a loaded firearm on top of stalking. His estranged wife was also charged for firearm possession after Glenn's stash of illegal pistols were found in her apartment wrapped in tinfoil. And if you look at the apartment, it's just when Glenn's home was searched, police quickly realized that Glenn was a hoarder. Rooms were covered in various boxes, CDs, magazines, and bags of trash. Strangely enough, his refrigerator was filled to the brim exclusively with condiments, mainly duck sauce. 4 months after the shooting took place, Glenn Hirsch shot himself to death in fear of being sent to prison. His suicide note claimed he was innocent, determined that photographers purposely destroyed his house to make him look like a hoarder, and that the quantity of condiments in his fridge was greatly exaggerated. You, Glenn Hirsch. This felt like a flimsy defense to many, especially after photos released where that you could see Glenn threatening employees at the restaurant with the gun. Look at this guy, dude. Glenn Hirsch. What a monster. Like a mental breakdown had to have happened there. Your entire fridge is just condiments and it's mostly duck sauce. What do you think the obsession with duck sauce was?
I don't know. It doesn't sound like he liked it. Maybe just like the color.
I had a buddy one time who would keep tons of chocolate sauce, like chocolate syrup, in his fridge. And it's just because one time he became obsessed with it because one time I think a girl sucked his cock with chocolate sauce on it. And he was just like, I'm just in case. It was like the greatest moment of his life, which I was like, more power to you. Also too, you could always get some chocolate milk whenever you want when you were there. Very nice. We've talked about some real stuff, but we got to talk about the industry, media, cable television's effects on hoarders, and the beautiful show, one of the greatest television programs of all time, which is the Hoarders TV show itself. And we got to talk about probably the best episode. I mean, if you've seen one episode of Hoarders, you've kind of seen all of them.
Every house is different, unique.
No, I think everybody just has newspapers and, empty boxes of cereals. But there is one that stands out above all, Nick. You are right about that. Which Hoarders, if you don't know, is a very popular TV show that delves into the lives of hoarder families in an attempt to clean up their homes and help them treat their hoarding disorder. I don't think it ever works. It's kind of like intervention. He's been clean for 2 months. Motherfucker's back on like air duster. One of the most infamous episodes is in season 6, where they visit the home of Shauna in Washington. Shauna, who already experienced hoarding tendencies, had returned to live with her mom, who was already a serious hoarder. Hoarder meets hoarder. Wonder what that outcome could be. This led to Shauna's habits becoming worse and worse until her mother eventually died from cancer 13 years later. According to Will, Shanna's brother, the conditions of the house undoubtedly led to the mom's death. Like I was just like, Shanna gave my mom cancer. That's kind of like a up thing to say, right? The house is dirty. Shanna, I hope you burn in hell. Shanna, who now lived alone in the house off disability benefits, is surrounded wall to wall in absolute filth. There is hardly a single inch of the floor that isn't stacked to the brim with garbage. The city was fed up with the state of her yard, which was covered in human waste and other random objects. They began fining her $250 per day until it was cleaned up, which led to the Hoarders TV crew stepping in to stop the city from taking away their home. Because goddamn, that's a good episode. When cleaning specialist Matt Paxton spends the night at Shanna's place to better understand her situation, it's worse than he could have possibly imagined.
This house is disgusting. It's hands down the worst smelling house I've ever smelled in my life.
This is pretty disgusting, y'all. Serious. The smells were sickening, and jugs of urine and feces were found all over, some of which belonging to her deceased mother. Not even all of it Shanna's mix. Not even is it her own brew. If I was a hoarder and my mom died like that, you better believe I'd be keeping like piss and shit jugs from her. Miss you, Mom. Scattered across the floor, he found bloody tampons and black mold. That's a disastrous combo. We cannot allow those chemicals to mix. A septic issue rendered the toilet unusable, even though it remains filled to the brim with feces. Instead, she opted to use a Home Depot bucket to relieve herself. Damn good buckets.
This is her bucket, man.
Because the bucket would become too heavy to lift, she would use separate jugs and buckets to slowly transport the waste to the backyard where she would dump it out. Because it's like, what am I going to do? Every time I go, I'm going to dump it. So yeah, I have like a series of small jugs and stuff in the backyard. Without washing her hands, she proceeds to make dinner for the two of them by filling a paper bowl with canned soup and cooking it in the toaster oven. When the bowl begins to burn, she claims that that's normal.
I smell smoke right now.
Oh no, it does burn it a little bit when I put it in the toaster oven.
She's like eating microplastics, right? The brother comes in. He's like, what? What did I say? She sits down next to piles of trash and feces as she eats. And when Matt discusses the source of the smell, Shanna is absolutely shocked that it's because of the piles of human waste, rather than, quote, a musty odor due to mold and dust.
What is the main cause of the smell?
Musty odor, having to do with mold and dust.
No.
No?
It's the feces and urine that's in the house.
Okay, so it's still musty.
Yeah, but it's from feces and urine.
Not because the mold and dust is getting on everything.
Dust is nothing compared to all the feces and urine. Is that brand new information to you? To think that the feces and urine has something to do with the smell?
I guess so, because I thought it was due to the mold and dust.
After this discovery, she tells Matt, quote, I've learned a lesson about fecal matter today, if nothing else. She's like, I have not even thought about a single other thing. I'm just more interested than I am. I'm not saying that I'm going to change anything. I'm just saying that kind of interesting. As the cleaners begin to sift through her kitchen, they are surprised to see that Shanna prefers to keep her moldy bread because she can cut off the moldy parts. When pushed to throw it out, she compares her situation to an intervention where the addict just wants to, quote, go out in a blaze of glory. AKA, she eats the moldy, expired food one last time. When they refuse to let her, she is quoted saying, again, why does it matter? I've been eating poop for 12 years. Awesome. And she's just like, moldy bread? You have no idea.
I would not eat a salad that had poop on it.
Well, I'm still hell-bent.
In the end, Shanna was not deemed capable of living on her own. Resources were provided to help her move into a transitional housing so she could find a safer living condition. The house, meanwhile, was so damaged from the filth that it was cheaper to bulldoze it and buy a new one than try to salvage what was there, which you have a little before and after. I mean, it looks like a house that was holding shit. That's just what even the after. It's insane. Those hardwood floors just being like, put me out of my misery, peel me up and throw me away. Of course, we got to go to Reddit. We went to the TV. Let's go back to, let's check out Reddit on r/child of hoarder subreddit support group. God damn, dude. Probably could have labeled that something a little less horrific too. Child of hoarder. For children who were unfortunate enough to be born in the living conditions of a hoarder, a subreddit was created that allowed them to vent about their frustrations and receive support. So these are people who are just like, does anyone else have a mom who's just hoarding? Many have discussed the intense burnout they feel trying to clean an endlessly replenishing source of garbage. Others voice their struggles staying clean with their entire home outside their room is extremely filthy. So people are like, I feel like I have to clean all the time, or I feel like I'm disgusting all the time because I'm sleeping next to Little Debbie wrappers and boxes of toasters and shit like that. You know what I mean? This is an interesting post here. It's just titled, Smell. How do I keep my room and myself smelling clean when my house smells like mold, piss, and shit? Literally. I shower every day, wash my hair every other day, scrub myself the down, wear deodorant, clean clothes, perfume, and lotion, but I'm still scared I smell bad because some boy said, ew, you guys need some new perfume, you smell, to a friend and I. They could have been joking, but still. My room, air filter on 24/7, and if I don't have that on, I have a candle on. Trash in my room gets taken out when necessary, so like 2 times a week maybe, but I feel like it could still smell, so I don't know. Just need some suggestions. And in worst cases, users have been posted about how they have to call the Department of Health and Child Protective Services on their own parents just to get themselves out of their living situation. Horrible. I guess to end this video, you know, hoarding seems kind of funny. On the surface, it seems pretty funny. You know, you collect trash. What the hell are you thinking? But with anything that's mentally disturbing, it's like always based in some kind of deep-rooted trauma. I could easily see people folding into a hoarding lifestyle. Hoarding is the long game. Starts off with a little something, and then you blink 15 years later, and then you're dying underneath in your own labyrinth of filth, basically. The Minotaur is putting his hoof on your chest, being like, good night. So if you're starting to collect things, just know that collecting things can be fine. Sometimes you don't want to think, you can get sentimental over little non-living objects, right? But if it starts being like an empty box of cereal, it really start to evaluate where you're at with your headspace. How you doing? You know, talk to somebody. And also, if you know somebody in one of these things, maybe give them a checkup. Never wrong to say hello to a friend you haven't seen in a while, right? They're still in their house. They smell weird. We also found out that Nick's family is got a lot of hoarders there too. You're not a hoarder though. At least not yet. Not yet. Until next time, everybody, don't be hoarding shit. We'll see you next time.
I'm going to teach you how to make homemade duck sauce. Never be at a loss for duck sauce again. 3 tablespoons of apricot preserves, white vinegar. Now whisk this together and take your duck sauce and pour it into your jar, just like that. And there you have it. Homemade Chinese duck sauce.